Cool.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Creatives Chat. Peter, tell everyone who we have on our show this week.
Oh, Rusty, we're keeping the conscious creators coming with our guest who's a writer, dancer, and musician that brings together universal wisdom and creative expression into a unique, one-of-a-kind experience that keeps us inspired, uplifted, and vitalized with his unstoppable energy. We have KingDow making a return to Creatives Chat.
Viewers, if you want to check out the previous episode, search for episode 12. Roll the intro.
Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
wearehistorically.com, Conscious Human Apparel, and
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
Let's welcome back the King.
And welcome, King, back to Creatives Chat. How you been, man?
Been living, thriving, bro. Round two, let's get it.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. I just want to say, congratulations on Spiritualized Drop, and I know that's your latest work. Just want to push that in the beginning real quick,
Thank you, man.
How's the experience of producing that compared to the last works you've been doing, man?
This one's been a lot of fun. I've definitely taken the most time out of any of my projects with this one, mostly because I was able to do it in an actual studio. I mean, all my other projects before have been at home studios, which I consider those like being in the studio too, but just to have that actual experience and being somewhere, like an established setting. And shout out to Robert Ironman of Fibonacci Studios. He's the owner who lives out here in Seattle. And the lead engineer, Lake, who mixed and mastered my whole project for me. Shout out to those two for being a big part of this and, just giving me like a whole experience I never would have thought possible. So it was, it's been a year coming. So it's been an awesome experience.
And I mean, I can tell that it's been pushing because you've been doing a lot of different shows and gigs, really for the most part, all summer, right? Like leading up to this too in post.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Marshall and them for Fremont Friday. I think that was one of the first shows I did in front of a bunch of people using some of this music, like Toucan Wukan, the leading single off of it. And then I did the Mill Creek Festival after that, which was very special to me because I live in Mill Creek, Washington, for those who don't know. And I always wanted to do a show out here as close to home as I could. So that was really cool. And I guess technically the first show I did was my friend's memorial, rest in peace to Red Fellow. He was the one who mixed and mastered the Energy EP that we spoke about last time. Yeah, he died in a car crash at age 22 on April 1st. So
I hear about that.
No, yeah, but it was a beautiful moment in time to have all the friends and family, from school that I haven't seen because we were both in band, and it was very powerful. Like it honestly I felt like I was watching myself in a very like, just like sad movie but that had like a good turning point because, just having all those people and like who may have known how close we were or didn't and being together to understand how much he did when it came to the music, I think was a very powerful thing. And I know he's been watching because ever since like all of that, a lot of beautiful things have been happening. So.
Ooh. And those are the subtleties that I always try to take note of is, when we do lose people that are dear to us, and it's just another beautiful thing to see how much we can transform the pain from that into an opportunity to build.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really compassion. We can build understanding, build new friendships, build new bonds. And I think that's the real kind of highlight to someone's ability to tap into other people's hearts. You can kind of tell the character of a person that way is how much they can bring people together in their passing, how much they can really transform just those who are living with their memory. I think that's always been like kind of like a powerful thing with like mortality. That's always kind of like brought me in.
Yeah, man, for real. Because like this whole like pandemic, and we talked about it last time, just like with all these weird changes in like government and like economics and all that stuff, like people have been going through a lot. Like a lot of people have been like losing people like very close to them. Like I also lost my aunt like in June or the next month, May. Yeah, and then because we had her memorial and Reed's memorial in the same week. So between those two, yeah, it was like, so between those two things, like on top of, getting ready for this project, it was just like a lot of like turns of emotions and stuff. But instead of seeing them as like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I did go through my time of mourning and all that, but I also saw like, I think this is a sign that I need to like take, like, not that I haven't been taking it seriously, but really understand, like you said, the impact of mortality
Yeah.
now, and so
Mm.
doing it for those who are here and those who are gone, and those, because I wouldn't have gotten where I was without him and my aunt who went to my first show. That was very powerful to me, back in
Yeah.
2018. So yeah, it's yeah, man, it's been a wild ride, but I'm just super grateful, and I don't see death as like the end. I see it as transcending into the next phase anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the one thing that regardless of anyone's beliefs and how they see the world and like whether it's reincarnation or not, if it's one and done methodology, you know, um, it's just the power of gratitude, regardless of just trying to see the situation for what it can provide you in the moment, as the lesson of grace that everything is. I think that's the most powerful aspect of like the human experience is once we tap into just being thankful for life, being thankful for just, all the small things, everything that we have in our experience, it really does take you to a next level of just like how you perceive and handle and deal with stress, conflict, whatever it is.
oh yeah, dude. Everything that we worry about is not really as deep as we think it is, in terms of on like a third dimensional plane with like work and relationships. It's like going back to like just realizing that we could go like die or just like transform at any given moment. Like the fact that
Yeah.
you and I are able to have this conversation is a miracle, because like we probably shouldn't have been there. We beat like a million different sperms to get to this life when we're at. You know what I'm saying? Like we're literally breathing miracles, and people take that for granted every single day. So
Ooh.
yeah, dude, it's wild, bro. That's why I try to like just be like, everything's an adventure. Like, okay, I have a day job, but like I get to like travel within that. I get to go to different stores, meet different people, network. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's real power. So,
See, that's a fascinating take because again, it's all just the power of perception and how you choose to see things. Like,
yeah.
there was always this like famous story of this teacher Adyashanti, who was pen pals with different prisoners, and one of them, was having a really tough time, and it totally switched in terms of like their experience of being in prison
Mm.
from something that was a very painful, suffering-filled experience to one that was akin to a monastery, just because they switched their perspective, where it's like, oh wow, I wake up in this beautiful monastery where I can really focus on myself and really asking myself the questions of, like, who am I, and diving into that, spiritual introspective search. But again, it's like it really does transform how much you can do in this world too, when you really just like accept the ride.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. And that's why like, and for those who don't know, me and Peter, man, like we're kindred spirits. Like we be kicking it sometimes, and he's always saying, "Just go with the flow, let it go." And I get all that to a point, but my problem is, I'm a Taurus, and Tauruses are known to be like very earth and grounded, but too grounded. Like I'm too stubborn sometimes. So on one hand, I can like, when it comes to my art, I'm hella carefree, but on another hand, when it comes to every other stuff, as in terms of like what I like to do versus what I don't like to do, I'm very like eminent on both sides. So it's hard for me to like try new things sometimes. So I try to like, tap into the other side. It's like, it's like asking an earthbender to like airbend. It's like, dude, what? Like, so, yeah, man.
Hey, yo, it's all a step in process. Everyone's growing. But I guess, I mean, you say that like, even though you're like, oh, you like to kind of stay, like do your thing, but you took a little adventure to California to do some new stuff. And like, how did that turn out?
That's true. Yeah, man. So last year, shout out to, her name's China. I went out there to go meet, she's an interviewer. She like works with local artists within the California scene. I did a virtual interview with her back when my Energy EP dropped. I found her Instagram, just like searching different people to like do interviews with. And we did that virtual one. We always kept in touch. I brought it up, I want to say like a few months ago, like, hey, I'd like to like do it in person. When do you do in-person interviews? She said yes. And it was a lot of like kind of like text tag because she was pretty busy with different stuff. And then finally we were able to organize it. So like the end of May, I worked it out where I would stay with my good friend, shout out Mateo, for like 4 days. So I could go out there and do that interview with her, just off the strength of manifestation. Because like again during like and going back to Spiritualized, the reason why I dropped that that whole album is just about my spiritual awakening in terms of like just doing a lot of studying and understanding like whatever I want I can manifest. I just have to like go for it with consistency and persistence. And so I kind of took that approach, which is why that was able to happen, because I was like, this probably won't happen. But then I was like, no, let me just switch my mindset and just like make it, even though with all this pandemic crap, like I'm gonna go to California somehow, you know. And so like I just like took that leap and just like stayed on it, and then we were able to get it going. But yeah, that was a really fun trip. I got to see my good friend Mateo, and you know, like got to like see my cousin who lives out there too.
Nice.
And yeah, it was really cool to be out there, because I mean during this time, which was only a few months ago, like Washington was kind of dead in terms of like things weren't really happening, obviously because we're still very serious about the lockdown or whatever. But in California on Venice Beach, just lined up as artists performing and doing all these different things. I got to perform a little bit while I was out there, and like bands were like playing and people were like coming together. And one night, I think it was my last night there, there was like this like kind of, you would have loved it, Peter. There's like a crazy tribal like spiritual circle with drums and people. I felt like I was in like some Amazon rainforest on a beach. And yeah, and so I get it, as I'm walking close to it, some dude who looks like, I want to say Lil Wayne or something. He looked like the Black Willy Wonka, to be honest. But that's the best way. Like Mateo knows what I'm talking about. But like, we walk as we're getting closer to the circle, and he comes up. He's like, "Oh, yo, get in there and get your blessing." And so like, you know, and so like, I'm just like, I just go in on one side, and Mateo goes on the other side, and just like, but he was right. Like, just being in that, like dancing, and then like, kind of like, you know, like in a movie when someone's like part of a celebration, then they pause to reflect on their life. That's literally what was happening to me. Yeah, seriously, literally happened to me. And just really being like, yo, like this, I'm on the right path, and like everything's gonna be okay. It felt like the spirits were all talking to me all at once during all this like chanting. It was like I was like in a trance, man. It was crazy.
Interesting.
And so, yeah. So yeah, and so and I kind of go backwards on the trip, but like I think like the second night, which was also kind of crazy in a different way. There's like some crazy riot that was happening in
Oh wow.
on Huntington Beach. There's like some famous TikTok kid named Adrian. This infamous Adrian's kickback was happening apparently, because me and Mateo were just going to network. I mean, I had a bunch of business cards with me, so we're like, yeah, let's go talk to locals and network, you know. And we saw a lot of kids were like, oh, this is there's a party going on here, that's dope. But then we realized that whole thing turned into a riot, and then cops came and they were throwing tear gas. I've never been tear gas before, and that was the first time. But I'm still out there, KingDow, independent artists. You know, it's just still trying to, you know, still trying to like, you know, just make. It was fun. And then I was like dancing in a circle, and they vlogged that too and put it on his YouTube. He had like 1 million. He has like over 1 million subscribers or something. So that was a cool little thing that happened. But yeah, dude, that was a beautiful trip. And like going
riot, spiritual experience.
I know,
interview.
Man. It was a straight movie, dude. I'm trying to think what else crazy happened. Yeah, just all that. And then like, you know, going back to the Venice Beach, what's cool about that beach is amongst all the cool different activities, it was kind of like a festival type of deal. At the skate park, you have like people skating, but then on the other side, these artists come together and they're making a cipher. And I used to go to the ciphers out here in Washington that were put on at the Black Lab Gallery, and they're probably going to come back this fall. But while we're out there, they just like put together a cipher at the skate park. And so me and my friends rap. But the cool thing was that the skaters and the rappers both had an audience. So everyone who wasn't doing anything and just chilling, like they were like taking in everything, all the action. So like you had and also there was like other people like doing like inline skating, and they also had an audience. So the beautiful thing about that that Cali showed me was that, yo, like people do appreciate the art. It's just a matter of like us artists like still going out there and doing things. I mean, because you and I, we kind of did it too. With for people who don't know, we put together a full spectrum performance like park event, and we did this year and we did last year, and this time around, correct me if I'm wrong because I've only done 2 with you. I think this is the best one so far. You know, in terms of just like people, in terms of people congregating, and so like taking everything I learned from California, bringing it here, and with what we're doing and what I'm doing, I'm like, like Like there should be no reason why we can't manifest whatever we want in this life. So
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. And then, just for some context for the listeners that maybe not be in the loop of things, the event that King's talking about is called Community Through Unity.
That's what I
And,
was thinking. Yeah.
and it's all about really just bringing together, like-minded creatives and how would you say like tapped in individuals to really just hold space and create a space based on peace, love, creativity, expression. And it goes with some yoga, some meditation, and then that really just kind of like roots and grounds you and just like kind of just like gives you that nice, I would say almost the realignment. Like it really harmonizes and balances you to have like this amazing experience while just hanging out, eating good food, and listening to some amazing music. So it's I guess I gotta say thank you again for being one of the musical performances. And that's kind of the thing that's kind of crazy about yourself too, is you talk about creativity and expression. It's like you dance. Like I saw some of the dancing bits from California, but it's also the rap aspect for music. But at the CTU you're showing like the old school bass side. So that's one of the cool things where it's like, how long have you been playing bass, and like when's your group, like how's the KingDow group doing? Like
Nah, for sure, man. Yeah. So I've been playing bass since I was 10. Let's see, I'm 27 now. What was that 17 years? I think. Yeah. So I've been playing, yeah, for a long time. I started playing by ear with my dad, electric bass, and then from there I kind of just like self-taught myself like bass. I would listen to recordings and like work on my ear. So I have a really good ear because of all that. And I taught myself how to read music in in middle school. In middle school is when I taught myself. Let's go back. Elementary school is when I taught myself how to read music. And then because I used to play an orchestra violin, and then middle school. Shout out Mr. Caldwell. You already know.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yeah, we went to the same middle school. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. And then when I got to high school, because I was already playing bass by ear this whole time, but the high school didn't have an orchestra, so I had to pivot and just focus on bass entirely, and all they had was the upright. So I had to like, based off what I understood about electric, I had to bring that to the upright. Yeah, and I still had to teach myself how to, I already knew how to read music, but only through treble. So I had to teach myself how to read bass clef. You know what I'm saying. So
yeah,
like,
that's wild.
Did that all the way through high school. I didn't get my first private teacher until college, and so I beat some older kid and got the placement in Jazz One. Jazz One is like joining like varsity basketball team, but you're a jazz musician, for people who don't know context, And so so I did all that, and during that time too, while I was in high school, I formed my own trio called Dysfunction, which is contrived of me, my drummer Luca that you saw, and my producer / DJ and pianist Michael Henning. And so that's like a instrumental funk trio. For the event, I was trying to get them for the event, but the piano player couldn't do it. So I was like, okay, I'll just get together with some local jazz cats I work with too.
Nice.
But yeah, so we're still doing stuff together. So there's two groups. There's the KingDow, which is my main thing, my solo music that they back me up on when it's time to perform. Michael also helps produce. He actually produced a song called Red Fellow that was dedicated to my friend Reed, who passed away. And that's out. And so that's one side, and then the other side is the trio that will play at different jazz events. We did the Edmonds Jazz Festival a couple weekends ago. We play at Central Saloon all around town.
Nice.
I consider that like a side project because it gives me another way to continue like playing bass in terms of like a band setting. But KingDow is like the main thing, only because like, and this is why like when people would ask me, hey, do you like doing singing more or playing bass more? I hate that question because I wouldn't be KingDow, whatever you want to call me, without being a bass player, being a dancer, being a thinker, and all these different things like that. Like, and we talked about this actually literally yesterday. Like, people want you to be one-dimensional, but that's not how it works to be a part of the human experience. You need it all. And so I'm grateful because I used to kind of like be conflicted. I wasn't sure, like, should I go this way? Should I go that way? I like to do all these things, but I had to realize all of these make me who I am. And so what really brought that to light was, and this kind of brings up the show that's coming up. So playing a show at the Black Lab Gallery September 18th. Me, Emmanuel Brown, and Aldo. For everyone who wants to come through, you can get tickets online. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we had to sell tickets, right? And so when I thought about who would want to come see me perform, I thought about all these different people from all these communities that know me, from my jazz community, from all the jam sessions and stuff I've done, from the hip hop community, from all the ciphers and stuff I've gone to, from the dance community. You know, like I used to be a teacher. Like all these communities of people who like support me, and that showed me like I made the right move and like I'm doing the right thing. And it doesn't matter which way I choose to go, people are gonna rock with me regardless. It doesn't matter if I'm playing bass or whatever. It's cool when they get surprised. Like when I performed for my for Reed Redfellow, his memorial, a lot of people that were used to see me playing bass, they were surprised, and yeah, they probably want to see me play bass, but they still respected it just as much as if I was playing, you know, or vice versa. People who see me play bass but want to see me rap, they respected it just as much, you know, and that was a cool thing. And not that I wanted respect either way. I could care if you rock with me or you rock with me. It doesn't matter how you came into my life, but it's cool to see no matter what it is I do, people have that natural respect regardless. So
well, I think it's because it's tapping into something that I think a lot of people are really just naturally drawn to, and it's someone that's just being authentically themselves. And that's one of the biggest, I don't know, I'd say life lessons that I always try to pass on and, you know, bestow people, is just to recognize that there's no such thing as judgment. You know, the only one judging you is yourself. Everyone has their own version of you in their head, but the most important being or concept or, you know, thing to master in this world is ourselves. You know, and I think that's one of the things where it's when you get into like the creative aspects of stuff, we seep into everything when you really invest your whole beingness into your own self and like what really sparks joy to you. And then when you do that, life kind of takes this next level twist where it sees the love radiating from yourself, that it just starts to transform into like attracts like, as I see it, you know, because they always say opposites attract, blah blah. It's like, yeah, only when you have to learn through chaos and all that nonsense. But when you start to align yourself with your own truth and like what really like resonates with your spirit, it becomes that switch where it's like attracts like. Your tribe begins to attract its tribe. You know, you start to have more of that harmony with life when it's starting to set up the, you know, the pave, or I guess you would say like the roadway or the stepping stones for you to like keep pushing in this experience. So like I always tell people like, yeah, I mean, like, you know, someone's doing it right when you're gaining attraction and notoriety and like booking shows from just being yourself, like, because that's how you gain people that actually like really respond and resonate with you, and that's the most important part, right?
No, facts, man. Yeah, going back to what you said, like that whole opposite attract crap. Like I used to think that looking at like my mom and dad, I guess, because like, okay, my dad, he's the music dude. My mom, she's more like business savvy, but like that's just surface level. Like there's a lot deeper things that connect to them, and I feel that way for a lot of people. But yeah, like you said, like no, like the reason why you and I rock well together is because we both have a similar view of the world. It's not because I don't know, like I want to play basketball and you want to like play with pom poms. It's just right. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's all a scam in terms of like the human interaction. But yeah, man, and going back to like you said, like that judgment thing. I read this book from Miguel Ruiz, who wrote that one book that everyone knows, The Four Agreements. There's another one that he wrote called Toltec Book of Wisdom or Book of Knowledge, which is actually where I got the inspiration to name my album Spiritual Eyes, because it talks about the spiritual eye, which is like the third eye, but he talks about how like you see yourself as you're the main character, and then like you put this judgment on other people as saying like, oh, they're the secondary character to your first character, and how to get out of that, which I agree with too, because for me, like saying not judging people, what I've realized is like, okay, I may be the player one in my world, but Peter's also player one. He's not player two to me. He's another player one that I can learn from and like work with and you know, see different sides from. So that's what we need to realize, is like everyone is their own player one to their life. Like they may not be as close to your story, but they're still like very important within their story, within their world, their worldview. So.
Well, and that right there is like, you know, a simple way to talk upon just living compassionately. And I think that's what's ultimately attracts a lot more people together than it pushes people apart, obviously, because we see what division does. We see how division creates those judgments. And that's probably the avenue in terms to take that, in the sense of, as you grow, do you see it as the sense of, each kind of recognition you have about yourself, it eliminates way more judgment and division than was present before?
Yeah, man. Yeah, because going back to the Taurus thing, I don't know what it is, but like it just one thing. Like, okay, I was always self-aware, like always super self-aware of who I was, but actually like being aware and actually recognizing it and doing something about it, as opposed to like, oh, I noticed about myself and not doing anything about it. Now I'm like taking notes, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm very judgmental about this thing or these type of people. Let me work on this because this might be people who would want to support me or help me out. You know what I mean? And that just comes from, yeah, just like, like, I mean, I've made mistakes in my own life, but for the most part, I wasn't as like troublesome as like most people in our lives that we know are usually, but realizing, okay, I'm not better than the next person or vice versa. And so like understanding, okay, my name is King and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, like not letting that ego of like where I am with my life purpose, like keep me from being like an asshole or whatever. Not to say that I ever was, but like, like that.
Everyone
like,
has moments.
everyone has
moments of, we're human beings. Or I think that's one of the first things of the judgment aspect, is that we can't judge ourselves, because then we can't get anything done. We have to accept what we do. It's ultimately coming to the knowing that it's okay, whatever happened in the past, because it made us who we are right now. The only thing that we can do is just be better, like, here on out.
That's it. Yeah, it's very simple, man. Because like people, humans, I feel like we can like, there's definitely a way of talking yourself too much into like complicating things. Like you can definitely talk too much. You know what I'm saying? And I've witnessed people do it to me so many times. It's like, you made your point. You made your point like 30 minutes ago. Now we're just talking for the sake of talking at this point. But yeah.
Well, we're so divided. I feel like that's one of the biggest things right now, is that with how tribal things have gotten, it's completely started to break down any type of cohesiveness. And maybe it's necessary for people to find, common ground with something that's a little bit deeper and more, real than all the superficial stuff. Like, oh, your favorite team, your, like your state, your color that you vote for, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but I've seen that started to really, kind of transform within people these past few years, is that, you've either gone super tribal. It's like that divergent point, like, society, everything's been changing and it's been getting a bigger gap between, like, I've either seen people become super tribal and way more exclusive, which is obviously like fear, tension, negativity, versus love and like openness. So I think that's the cool thing, where I see, you touched upon it earlier, where it's like, yeah, the Community Through Unity event that we did, like that had so many people just like coming to the park and staying and just hanging out and enjoying the music and the experience. So it really does just go to show that I feel like way more people align with like the love, the harmony, the peace, the community, the unity, yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. The unity. And the best thing about that event, bro, it didn't matter if you're, like you said, if you voted for Trump, if you voted for Biden, if you wore a mask, if you didn't, if you got the vaccine, if you didn't, everyone was just there in communion to one simple thing: love and music. That was it. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing. And I think that's like we're saying, how we're getting divided. We're losing that in our community with all these different regulations that these venues and stuff are doing in terms of like the community aspect of music and, the arts, period, and that's why, and that's another reason. And shout out to Isabella at the Black Lab, because she's allowing the artists to, well, I'll say two things. So what's been happening is, from what I've noticed, like, because I would go out sometimes with my friends and stuff, but before, like, there wasn't any regulation. So everything was getting filled, all these different venues were pre-popping. Fast forward like a week or two later, once the mandate happened again or whatever, that instantly passed. Now it's like all these different places have it to where you need to have a card or show that you're not that you don't, that you got the vaccine or you didn't, whatever.
Some type of test with some in addition to that.
Exactly. And so because of these regulations, now their business has gone down, and so because of that, okay, yeah, you basically you divided people again, because now people who don't believe in this stuff, they want to go have a good time, but they can't, because now you have this thing. And then people who do or did go through regulations, whatever, like they'll probably still go, but they'll probably feel weird because it's not as lit as it could be, because not everyone can go. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shout out to Isabella, for the owner of the Black Lab, because she's allowing us, the artists, to choose how we want to run it, and we decided we want to make sure everyone can have a good time. So like, you come
Yeah.
as you are, whether you vaccine or not, mask, no mask, it doesn't matter. We just want people to enjoy the music, because, and it really sucks for artists, because artists who do want to perform, it puts them in a tight position, because it's like, okay, they want to make sure everyone's safe and all that stuff, and I get it, but now it's like, do you go support this venue and do it, or do you try to find other ways, knowing it's going to be harder, but
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? And so that's another thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that's something I'm realizing, like, okay, this is gonna test me too, because now I have to really walk it like I talk it, in terms of like where I am with these things. And again, no judgment to however people want to like live their life. That's up to you. But like, I also have to be real, because I like the thing we did at the community event. I want people to know that when they come to whatever thing I'm doing, they're not going to be judged. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they can be who they
Yeah.
are.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of transformation that's happening, and it's some of the potential that we can actually kind of capitalize on as people, is really take all of this into our own hands. Like, who needs? I mean, there was no drinking and really like smoking going on. It was a sober event from what I was aware of.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like, if people wanted to have a drink, if people wanted to smoke, if people wanted to do anything, you're at a park, you can do that. It's a taxpayer funded park. It's something that I think is really changing the way people are going to be experiencing the arts by
Mm,
force. You know what I mean? So I think
yeah.
I think the more type of pop-up, like busking, just like mini festivals, I think that's going to start gaining a lot more popularity in the coming weeks and months, as they continue to close things down. Because I know one thing that people really missed and were really kind of deprived of, and you can see that excitement when it came back, was music.
Hmm.
People being able to gather again in a space and just have that type of energy being played. And that's the kind of magic that I think we have as the opportunity of this kind of choice and debacle. Is it okay to is it okay to exclude people based on something that they choose to put in their body or not? I think we're going to find out real quick, and people are voting with their dollars right now, and it's actually showing the fact that people are not okay with it. And I actually know a lot of people who again are and aren't, that don't support anyone trying to exclude anyone based on that stuff. I mean, again, it's like they put fear into such a place of being a virtue that I feel like people just try to do whatever they want now, just to appease the government, versus just do what we know what people want. Because again, like, people are super stoked about that stuff, and I feel like if we can transition that energy into taking back the art scene and the creative scene, that you don't need a venue to be successful, you don't need a venue to have a lot of people like show up, I think that'd be really powerful to like play with in these coming months too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really gonna, again, test artists in terms of like, okay, like for example, and I talked about this with you as well. Like, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do anything. However, I don't care if other people do in a social setting. I don't care if that's who you
Yeah.
are when you come to my show. If you come hi to my show, I'm not gonna kick you out or whatever. Like that's who you are, and I just rock with you because you rock with the message. Period. The whole point. I think artists forget that we have our morals and who we are, but that doesn't mean that we cast judgment. So again, going back to like, you got the shot, you didn't. What I've been seeing is like, for those artists who are on the side of like, they support what's going on with this whole vaccine, that's cool. But like, you gotta realize you have people that rock with you that don't. So when you say certain things, you're alienating those people,
Yeah.
and the other way too. And I think a lot of artists, and heed my warning, guys, you know what I'm saying? Let's go viral. I don't care. But like, we really got to be careful how we talk about people and ideas, and make sure we're not stepping on other people's toes. Like, speak your truth, like regardless, like with conviction, but make sure that, you're also supporting those that rock with you and may have different opinions, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I try
Oh
to
yeah.
move with when I'm like, I gotta give a shout out to Brian 444. He's one of the people that inspired me. So like, and that interview you guys did was super dope. I'm looking forward to the after show. But you know, like he will do spiritual TikToks where he just like, you know, just give people some positive messages. And I was like, that's a cool way to like, because I mean, I like to talk a lot too. I like to speak positivity. And I would do it through music and like random stories on Instagram or something. But I was like, I kind of like I want to do it in a set, like a small video form. Like YouTube would be dope, but I don't have time to like really like put all my like I'm using YouTube but for the music videos. That's money enough. Like I don't have time to like I thought I did. I don't have time to like make crazy Rob Smart videos or whatever. And so like but the cool thing with TikTok is like I can put out more videos like quickly with a small amount of time and draft them, all that stuff. So seeing Brian do that inspired me to want to do that. And for me, it was never about numbers or whatever. I just want to have a consistent message to give people. And when I started to see sparking of it, right? Like I'd say like within the last 4 weeks, I started going, my TikTok has been blowing up because people are starting to resonate. I'm like, that's all I wanted. I wanted to just like bring people together. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of, and sometimes I'll talk about, you know, the like shots, no shots, color, race, read, politics, whatever. But the whole point is the theme is always, you know, moving without judgment, loving each other and breaking through those barriers of like separation. Cause that's the biggest, like you said, like how like people are going to realize like with all these different lockdowns that we don't need venues to do shows. People are going to realize, oh yeah, we don't need these like labels to like love each other, you know? So yeah.
Well, that's the potential here. I think there's definitely an interesting, you know, chance for people to be courageous and act on their art and act on their love and really create a space. Because I mean, it's what you're saying in terms of even just like noticing the TikTok growth. The world is tapping back into one that values truth, that values these kind of love, open-based, inclusive knowings without the BS division, you know, the divide and conquer tactics, which gives me a lot of hope, you know, that of all the times for things to really start resonating with people's hearts, it's definitely now. Like,
dude, so it made me so happy to see like, okay, Brian started blowing up off spirituality. Your guys' channel, shout out to you guys. When I saw you guys like, you know, got to that 1800, you know, and then they're starting to monetize. I'm like, yes. And then stuff is happening for me. I'm like, yeah, all these like these are good signs that this is the time of like positivity, consciousness, fifth dimension messages. Like that's the new trend. And I don't even want to say trend because trends die out, but like I want to say that's the new movement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's the next evolutionary step. And I just want to say quick intermission. I just want to say shout out to Tara by Janine for that little boost. The truthers and spiritual community real recognizes real. So we thank you for your support. And those that just randomly popped in. But most importantly, I think that's I want to highlight that because I don't see this as a fad or a trend. I see this as the scales finally coming back into balance. I feel like we've been living in such like a very like corrupt, this world doesn't really resonate with the human spirit at all. And, you know, as the universe has been changing, as, you know, consciousness itself continues to evolve in this understanding, that's where I feel like we're at this precipice of, we're the pivot people, you know, as so to speak, you know, we're the ones that are tapped in are the ones that are going to have to really start to channel this energy into like the world that we really want to create versus having people, you know, pass over their free will and continue the same cycles of war, destruction, division, hate, and all the fear nonsense. So I think it's seeing trends like that though, that give me a lot of, again, like hope and just joy knowing that like, yeah, most people are on this wave right now. At least how I see it.
No, fact. I want to ask you too, like in terms of like outside of like, you know, the accolades in terms of like our social media is doing well. Do you feel like people have started paying really close attention to you and what you're about during all of this? Like I know like for me, like I've definitely seen like it feels like the amount of eyes, like people are always watching me, but now it feels like the amount of eyes are really watching me. And when people reach out and say certain things like, thank you, we need you, stay alive, and all this. It's like, whoa, bro, I'm not verified. We ain't gotta be like that. You know, like those like
stay alive,
save KingDow at all costs or save Pete Lucas at all costs type shit. Like I'll get those sometimes. And I'm like, wow, okay, it's puts like a whatever the saying is, like a something within my back, like, oh, this is for real. Like people need this message, and I'm blessed to have it to where it's channeling through me. But yeah, I was just curious, like, if you felt that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that life always graces us with, these opportunities to remind us what's really working. It's, I don't like to, it's hard for me to want to use the word validation, but it's like
Yeah.
but it verifies rather, that, yep, rock going the right way. And it's always those moments like, again, at the CTU, we got such good positive feedback, and just from the things that, from like my meditations and sought songs, it's the same thing, people, I think the thing for me that is like that deep satisfaction, and it's just it's a love, is when I have different people like message me on, or like leave a comment, or like email me about like a dope spiritual experience. That's probably been the coolest thing to witness from some people, and to actually know that like my words and, really is just expressing my path of these understandings. That's
Yeah.
really, I only can speak on what I know. So I just express things the way I experience them and know them or understand them at that point in time. Uh, and to have them talk about like major awakenings and unfoldments and like healing and that type of transformation is always super powerful. So I think that's one of the things that is good for the person to experience, is just to know that like it feels a lot better helping people than it ever has felt hurting people.
Oh yeah.
And that's like the deep transformation that I find is always so beautiful when you find people that are like tapped into their work like that, is that they can really like harness that and give their gift to the world. And it's really, again, there's 8 billion people out there. There's always going to be people that vibe with you. Like, and that's the thing, that technology and like things like TikTok have really showed us, is that like, yeah, dude, there's a lot of people out there that like are tapped into different things.
They get it, man. Yeah, if I don't get all of them, just 10% is enough. Exactly. Yeah, like people, like you said, like there's, if not a million people are gonna rock with you, okay, 10,000. That's all you need, and
How many do you really need to be happy? Like,
yeah, facts. That's what it's never enough, and that's what people don't realize, and that's why. And then okay, all right, let's get really ready. So like,
Go
all right,
for it.
guys, the pendulum. If you if you guys really want to tap in like everything Peter and I have been talking about like together and separately on our different things, like first off before meditation, you have to like go within, because like that's like step number one. And I'm sure you agree, like you need is like, it's not like people think, oh, I'm just gonna believe and I'm gonna start flying and levitate. No, you have to like meditate and do all that stuff internally. But once you get past all that, you'll start to like be blessed with spirit and be able to see different things. Peter, graciously showed me like the powers of the pendulum, like, and the pendulum. If
you
guys
mean
don't know-
this?
he had it ready. I was just gonna point the one out you're wearing. This guy, he's like, "Oh, King's on. We got with this shit." No, that's awesome. But no, for real, like, so the pendulum, guys, and maybe you can explain more. I'm just like going off what I've known and seen based off our sessions, but like, it's this medallion where when you can have a graph, or you don't necessarily need a graph, but it's a way that you can channel like spirit, and that spirit can talk to you. And depending on, once you figure out like how it communicates, yes, no, depending on how it sways, that's the way that you can channel like the fifth dimension, talking to maybe past loved
Higher
ones,
self. Yeah,
higher self, essentially. And so for me, my great aunt Evelyn, she passed like within a year or something, and she spoke to us through the spirit, because the pension was saying someone within your family bloodline on your mom's side wants you to want less. And I was like, what? And so like I texted my mom like, yo, did anyone pass that's a female on your side in the last year? And she's like, actually, yeah, you're great aunt. And I was like, I was done. I'm like, nah, because, and we've done like multiple sessions, but I was like, this is crazy, bro. Like, like when like, okay, something's real, but to actually see it, you still freak out. Like, I thought I was past freaking out. I'm not past freaking out, bro. Like, if I turn around and saw you meditate or levitate, I'd be like, yes, I know, like, it's crazy. So like, but no, so saying all that to say, like you said, like, how much is enough? When my aunts through the spirit of the pendulum said, I want less, it made me realize, you're right, want less, because I'm blessed with everything, So
Ooh.
yeah, people need to realize that, bro. Like the fact that simple things, breathing, touching, just like even getting sexually aroused, like these are very simple human feelings that we always take for granted. and a lot of
Yeah.
people can't feel this or do this. So it's like the fact that you
Mm.
can like says it all. I mean, like, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, man. I mean, you
Yeah,
touched on it earlier. Like you said,
yeah,
everything is a miracle,
yeah,
and this life is a miracle. And I think that's one of the biggest things to recognize about just this human experience is that everything that we live through, everything that we get to like enjoy, everything about this experience really is a beautiful gift.
hmm,
It really is that like miraculous occasion where it's like you're just here living, breathing on this rock flying through space,
yeah.
with a bunch of other people getting to unfold internally, externally, and just like what? What more could you ask for? Like the world is your playground.
Exactly, man. Like we're so like I get it. We all have aspirations in terms of what things we want to do. I sometimes I'll ask myself like, what if there wasn't a name for being an artist? You know what I mean? Like, what if there wasn't like there's this steps you need to get this many followers, you need to get on this placement, you need like what if these were never things? What if we were just like living and like I knew, oh yeah, I like to dance and sing, and I would just do it, but there was never like a reward to get to the next level. Like basically, yeah,
Mm,
what I'm saying, like, what if there's no rewards in this game? Because life is a
mm,
beautiful experience, but it is a game. Like within like the third dimensional matrix that we're in terms of like job, money, house, family. Like
mm,
that same thing goes for our careers essentially. And so like I think like the hardest thing to tap into, but that isn't impossible. You just have to like really believe is understanding you can be wherever it is you want to be within your own perspective, discipline or passion. Is just
mm.
realizing you don't have to like go up that monopoly rat race that you think you do,
Yeah.
based off the confines of like the industry. Which is why I love the idea of being an independent artist, and I think a lot of people should,
Mm,
with the power of the internet, like listen, like you're your own, radio broadcast show. I like we put this all together just like on our own channels respectively, and without
yeah.
no industry, no person gatekeeper like they used to do back in the day. So yeah, I think just I don't know where I was going with that tangent wise, but like people just really need to realize that there's so many different ways, like we said, being in this playground that you can do whatever it is you want to do. You don't have to like join like the game that was created.
Yeah.
Because what if it wasn't a thing? So
Oh yeah. I mean, like look at any type of I guess you would say like brood or breed or just kittens and puppies. Like just look at any of them when they're in a little pen. There's always one that's trying to climb out. You know,
mm,
be the one that climbs out. I mean, obviously, like not in the sense of like actual puppies and kittens, folks, but just
yeah,
like in terms of where we're born at, we're born in a box. We're
yeah,
born with these limitations, and life doesn't really begin until we get out of the pen. And then you realize who you are. And when you realize who you are and you keep fueling this discovery, this path of, inner looking and self mastery, then it completely transform. And like, I don't want people to think like when we say like life is a game, like this is a playground, that doesn't mean you're not playing it with sincerity or
yeah,
love. Like
right,
there's nothing more beautiful than playing. And I think any artist can express that where it's like, you're up for your set, you're playing, you're literally playing. Like that is life at its purest, is when we are enjoying what we love. So, just kind of loosely answer the question. I feel like that was asked back in the statements was, what would we call people if we didn't have like the reward systems? What would we do? What would we really, how would society be? Like, ultimately for me, I would just say like, oh, they're doing what they love.
mm,
I think that would be like the probably the purest thing. Oh, they love that too. Oh, they love that. But I think that's the real trippy thing we get into when you think about, nothing in nature, nothing in society has monetary anything. There's no
mm,
money, but people do it, so what would a world really be like if we could just express ourselves freely without having to worry about anything?
mm,
That's a
right,
super loaded question. I mean, like sky's the limit, right?
mm,
In terms
definitely,
of creativity, especially with the technology we have nowadays. Like if people had I mean, I think that's one of the things we saw with the coronavirus, though, is people finally had the time to breathe. So we started to see more. So we started to see more people wake up. We started to see more people tap into like, this kind of this inner looking. They finally had the foot off the gas. So they had a moment to really like reflect and process like the experience that they're living. Most people
yeah.
don't have that type of relax or release.
Yeah, man. It's seeing the calm within the storm. It's like this was the biggest blessing. Like I know, like listen, don't get me wrong, a lot of devastating things have happened around this time, for myself included. But there's a lot of beautiful things like I can never like recreate in terms of like
Mm.
my own like spiritual development. You know, the connections of people I've made, such as yourself, Rusty, different people that, you know, if this thing never happened, probably would never happen. It probably would have happened differently, but not the way it could have gone, you know? And so, yeah, like, and just, yeah, like you said, really taking advantage. And like, shout out to my mom. It's been beautiful. So I got like I always tell people I get my creative love from music from my dad, but I get the hustle and the focus in terms of the business side from my mom, because she's like, my whole life she's always been a manager. She's never been a worker bee for anyone. Like, she's always been like the
Mm.
manager or like some type of like boss like level position. And but leading up to this pandemic, like she was what was she doing, like she was like a resource agent or something. But pandemic happened, she got laid off, and you know, she was living under unemployment, but this gave her time to really work on her business, owning her own clothing business that she's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
wanted to do. And so she finally was able to do it, and it's been amazing. I haven't seen her like have an actual job, and she was still able to have her own apartment through this whole damn thing and still do her business. And I'm just like, I'm trying to be like, mom, like that's crazy, you know? So it's like, it's
Yeah.
beautiful to see. So
Mm.
yeah, man. Using an example to say like, she chose this time to tap in, and people can really tap into what it is they really want to do. They have the time, you know, like,
Yeah.
they lost their job maybe, or maybe like they got a divorce, or they lost someone they thought was their everything, but that gave them time to realize who they really were. Like, maybe this relationship was a distraction, so you needed that to realize how much time you wasted, so now you can like really put that energy into something that's real. So yeah, man, it's I
Facts.
mean, you know what I mean? Like, COVID just stands for creating our vision in detail. Shout out Ralph Smart. But you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that now is the time to create our vision in detail, and that's why I'm like truly grateful and like blessed. Like we said earlier, like we may not be where it is we want to be, but like we're closer than ever before, based off, you know, just like putting in that action and manifestation process.
Yeah, I mean, the first step is always just getting the foot out there. Like, I actually look in life and wonder how many times when I put myself out there and gave myself the opportunity, have I been denied? Have I been told no? Rarely. I'd say like a handful. And in those
Yeah.
times, it was in those times in hindsight and looking back at it objectively, it was like it was never meant to be anyway. And it was a blessing that I didn't get those things, because it would have been really bad. Like,
Oh yeah.
wouldn't have aligned with who I am, my spirit, anything. So I think that's just the cool part about it. And, you know, I just want to say, King, I'm going to have you hold on tight, because we definitely want to have you on for the after show. But before we transition and we take a pause on this episode, I just have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your biggest piece of advice for independent artists and people trying to be themselves in their art?
Damn. It started off, oh, easy answer, and I was like, wait, hold up though. Like, this is deep. No, yeah, for real. I would say just ask yourself, if this was your last day, literally your last day, like today, right? How would you want to be remembered, and what would be your statement? And just like use whatever statement that is, like moral theme, to like propel every decision you make. So like, if you're scared to like approach that promoter to do something, remember, like, okay, this is who I am, and I need to get this message out. And if I don't do it now, like, I never will. So just really moving with conviction, being consistent. Consistency consistency is key, because that's the reason why we don't hear about most artists. They fall off because they slow down. You have to you fall off. How did I say that? That was the deepest shit.
We'll run it back. We'll run it back at some
That was
point.
crazy. Yeah, you fall off because you slow down. That's what. So going back to my TikToks, the only reason why that stuff started to blow up a little bit was because I was posting every single day. Like, before I went to work, I have to get up at like 3, 4 in the morning sometimes. But before I go, I'm just, all right, let's throw it on. And same with the music. Like, I was working on it every single day. Dancing, bass, I was practicing every single day. You know, like when I was in back in jazz band, like after college, like after we do a gig, everyone would be like, King, why are you still in the basement? I'm like, I still got to practice. I messed up on that one note during that second measure. Like, I'll see you guys later, late night in the basement, you know what I'm saying? Surpassing everyone, you know? So it's like, that stamina is, so now I can come to a festival and play for 7 hours, because other bass players don't show up because that's another story. But yeah, man, it's just consistency. You have to be consistent. Consistency with your theme, consistency with who you are, consistency with your mores. You have to like keep yourself in check. Like if you put something out there, make sure you're actually living what it is you're saying. So like, and that's something I try to practice. Like if I put something out, a statement, whether I say like, okay, people work on semen retention, or like make sure you brush your teeth twice a day or whatever, I need to make sure I'm doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Quite the spectrum of things on that example.
Yeah, just random crap. Yeah, but that's how my TikToks be. 1 minute I'm saying something it's all over the place. And that's why
That's too funny.
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, spontaneity. But yeah, you have to like walk it like you talk it. A lot of people don't walk it like they talk it.
Yeah.
And we see that with politicians and different entertainers. Pick your poison. Like there's so many people we don't have to name, but like hypocrites that like say something and behind the scenes they're doing something they should not, and then it makes news. So I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but like if you're going to be consistent with a message and a theme of who you are, make sure you are actually living that. And like in this video game, if you say, oh, I'm a princess, okay, well, move like a princess. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're an NBA star or athlete, move like that. Like all the time in every way. How does an athlete brush their teeth? How do they greet people? How do they talk to their loved ones? Like all these different things can find, and that's why I'm blessed by see as a responsibility. Even though like we have to detach ourselves from names, my family named me king for a reason, because to be a king means to be the first to lead. That's why I have a lot of gratitude that like I can like bestow love and different opportunities for like the people within my circle. Like I don't shy away from wanting to be a leader, but at the same time I got to make sure not just in music, I'm a leader for my siblings, I'm a leader for those students that I have to go speak in front of, or audience, whatever. Yeah, that was a long way of answering that question.
It worked, but it just opened up so many more questions, so it's great for that after show convo. Thanks again for coming on Creatives Chat. Tune in Monday when we release that part 2. Roll the outro.
That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 3:33 p.m. Pacific Daily Time as creative minds get together and chat about who knows what. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always. And subscribe to be notified of future episodes.
100%, right?